Hi, everybody, and welcome to Unified, a podcast feed from First Church Belmont Unitarian Universalist. We'll be sharing sermons and stories, especially thematic content made new every week. We're so glad you're here, and for more information about who we are and opportunities to grow and deepen, swing by the church on Sundays or check out our website at uubelmont.org. And for now, enjoy this new content.
Imagination can be dangerous. Imagination can allow fear to run amok. We are in what Adrienne Maree Brown calls an imagination battle. This is a battle in which the fears of the government, the imagination of the empire, is often centered or prioritized. This is an imagination that tells people that families only look a certain way and gets people to believe it. This is an imagination that tells people some folks are better than other folks and gets people to believe it. This is an imagination that tells people this country is too exceptional to be a place for immigrants and gets people to believe it. Imagination can be dangerous. But during today's worship, as we observe Trans Day of Visibility, I want us to understand how we might take up the cause of imagination and undertake a creative endeavor toward a liberated future. How can we imagine a collective future that moves beyond a baseline of visibility and into meaningful relationships? To do this, we have to pick a point to start from. And I want to bring your attention to a moment early last month when references to trans and queer people were removed from the Stonewall Inn National Monument website. Like so many other identities that have been erased from government records recently, what was once visible has been made invisible. A monument that marks a key turning point in the long history of LGBTQ+ liberation has had its story altered. The letters T and Q have been removed from that usual collection of letters. Left now are L, G, and B. What is often considered an expansive alphabet of belonging has been mangled into a narrow list of exclusion. This intentional removal, this harmful revision, dishonors the legacy of Stonewall. This is a legacy intertwined with the stories of trans people. One name often emerges in the telling of Stonewall: Marsha P. Johnson. Marsha was a drag performer, an AIDS activist, a sex worker who was engaged so fully in a lived liberation. And during the very early morning of June 28, 1969, as some histories have it, Marsha P. Johnson was the person who threw the first brick at Stonewall. This throw, whether it was a brick or something else, was not the beginning of queer liberation, but it marked a shift. The flight of that brick, real or imagined, made visible the reality of oppression for many. James Cone, the theologian who wrote A Black Theology of Liberation, thought of love in a way that might be unsettling for some, but I think useful here. He wrote that there is a need for love to be used to destroy oppressors by any means at their disposal. To destroy oppressors by any means at their disposal. This is not a casual thought to be thrown about. Cone's theology of liberation is one that understands the divine on the side of the oppressed and is active, participatory in the destruction of oppression. And sometimes the act of destruction, the move toward liberation, might come about from a brick. The thing is, of course, is that when history is controlled by those in power, we don't always get to know our own history. So easily can the stories from the margins fall off the side of the page. The details we yearn for, the specifics we want, the evidence we desire so that we can prove some sort of connection to a history of deep meaning. Well, that just isn't possible when an empire controls the narrative. But imagination can help us reclaim our story. So whether it was Marsha P. Johnson who threw that brick or some other object, or even if nothing was thrown, I can imagine a tangible struggle during a certain moment. What matters to me most is that Stonewall happened. And what matters to me is that the story of Stonewall is not about a single person. Even when we try to make it about one person, even when we try to say, Marsha P. Johnson did the thing, the story is one that out of necessity is about a community. The queer community is not and cannot be about a singular person. The rainbow is expansive. And within this expansive community are trans people, are queer people, are people who might not conform. Imagination, though, it can be dangerous. Some might suggest that the removal of the T and Q from LGBTQ+ is not that much of a concern, that this string of letters is not truly what identity is about, that a letter or two doesn't matter. But if it doesn't matter, then why did it happen? It happened because fear can fuel an imagination that demonizes. Kelly Brown Douglas, a womanist theologian, has these words for us. Cultural violence is what makes direct violence acceptable, even normal. This is a warning, if not a realization, that the visibility of our trans and non-binary siblings matters because to cast a person invisible is to deny their humanity, to deny their existence. To remove trans people from the story of Stonewall is to remove trans people. If we are okay with the word being removed, we are okay with people being removed. And I do not expect this to sit well with you. I know your imagination yearns not for removal, but for connection. And of course, this is not just about trans and non-binary people. Our liberation is collective. We are all free together. If one of us is not free, none of us are free. If the story of Stonewall is changed for trans and queer people, it is also changed for gay, lesbian, and bisexual people. It is also changed for straight people. The history is changed for everyone. We are interdependent. And this is the key, I think, to our pathway forward. We are interdependent. This is a relational aspect to life. And I urge us to be active in the imagination battle, because imagination does not have to be dangerous. It can be. We know that. We are living against that reality. But imagination does not have to be dangerous. We can throw a brick through that version of imagination. We can imagine instead something life-affirming, something life-giving, something that moves beyond visible. We know visibility is important. I know it's important. We can hear how being visible matters in words from the trans poet Del Alta Esme, who writes, "Watching you bloom made me realize I could bloom too." The act of being visible to one another allows us to creatively think about our futures. To see a pride flag lets me imagine a place of belonging, a place where I, a queer person, might get to settle deep into that sense of belonging. To see trans and queer joy alive in this world gives shape to our collective imaginations that such joy can exist for all. Visibility has this way of letting an authentic life lived connect with another authentic life lived. And that connection goes beyond the visible. And visibility can reveal, like with the butterflies Martha talked about earlier, that different genders and sexualities are widespread throughout this existence. And yet, visibility only goes so far. We need to be actively engaged with our imaginations to reach for something beyond visible. To help us understand this point, I share the words of Sam Hope, who has a blog post titled, "Visibility Was Never Our Problem." And Sam writes, "Forget the passivity of seeing or remembering. It is time to act. So how about a new day? Trans Day of love and celebration, Trans Day of getting housed, Trans Day of caring about us, Trans Day of access to health care." And Sam's list goes on and on. I hear in these words an existence that we might all welcome, one where our bodies are taken care of, one in which we experience love, one that should not just live within our imaginations. A trans liberation is connected to liberation for all of us. And my theology tells me this: we get to a liberated future in relationship with one another. We get there together. We support our trans and non-binary siblings, we support our trans and non-binary selves, and we struggle together so that we might not have to struggle in the future. But we are in the struggle, a struggle that demands the attention of our imagination. This is a welcoming congregation. On the way out of the sanctuary into the upper gathering hall, there is a poster that indicates as much. Being a welcoming UU congregation means this community has taken certain steps to learn what it means to welcome LGBTQ+ people. But I urge this community to consider what it would take to renew our welcoming congregation identity. This would mean going beyond the visible to understand more and more how we support and welcome the LGBTQ+ community, or what might be our growing edges in this effort. This could mean affirming that visibility is a great place to start, but we want to move beyond that in a way that is assuredly about belonging. When we say something like, "All of who you are is sacred," or "All of who you are is welcome," how do we live that here? How is that an active concern? Imagination can be life-affirming, life-giving. One of my dear friends, E.P. Lee, who's in the sanctuary with us, imagined a way of telling the stories of trans families. These are stories told through photography and words. My friend makes visible ways of being a parent, a child, a spouse. You will get to see some of these photos during coffee hour, but you will not get to see all of the invisible realities that trans families must tend to. The photographs, though, I hope, inspire you to build the connections we need in this life that we are all cared for. Our call is to make sure that we are a place of comfort for trans and non-binary folks as they exist currently in our community and when our future selves welcome more people to this place. And in this work, I need you to know that trans and queer joy, it exists. Sometimes when we talk about identities, especially ones being attacked, we train our attention on the suffering. This is not to deny that, but I need you to know that joy is not just a figment of the imagination. This is important. It is real. As we build or cement our relationships with one another, as we journey on creative endeavors to affirm this place as one of belonging, as we struggle toward our collective liberation, I want you to know how important it is that trans and queer joy exists. And if this has not been made visible to you yet, perhaps these words from the trans poet Jazul James will help. May our bodies persist. Let them shine whole and well. May our minds calibrate to the call of the universe. Let our protest songs transfigure to peace hymns. Let our cultural knowledge produce nourishment. May our homes bustle warm with abundant love. May our communities flourish despite borders. Let our love quake open any lingering shackle. Let our joy obliterate any festering contempt. As we bind each other closer, we manifest futures more possible. With these words as a blessing, our call is to move beyond the visible, to embrace an imagination of what is possible, and to be a place of belonging. There is joy in this call, if we let the joy call out from within us and to find it in each other. There is joy. May it be so, and amen.